All right, welcome to the Engage Your Fan Base podcast. This is number 7, where we are talking about boosting your fan base by building your music tribe with Force of the Alchemists. Yay! Yay! I'm Kara Karma. I'm a publicist with Simon Says Booking in Western Massachusetts. You can find me at engageyourfanbase.com and at Live Music News and Review, where we are periscoping every weekend live music at the handle at LMN&R. So like I said, today my guest is Garak, or Force from the Alchemists. Thank you for coming on.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm always excited to do interesting and new things like this.
This is pretty new, but it's growing. And I remember when I first got periscoped with you, you had told me that you liked all kinds of technical stuff, right?
Yes.
I've been
awesome. We live in a time where you have a personal computer in your pocket and you can do things, FaceTime your kids and stuff.
You could do this on your phone, but I find that it doesn't have the best service, so it's much better on the computer. So first, why don't you start by telling us about yourself and the Alchemists and what that's all about?
Cool. So I'm Garak. Everyone calls me Force. I happen to be the wordsmith, the MC of the band. The Alchemists is a blend of reggae, hip-hop, soul, funk, everything in between. I'm lucky to be one of the front people. We have 3 other vocalists in the band. And I also do a little solo music in the hip-hop vein, play in the band The Problematics, which is a little bit more old school than some of you guys might know, but there's going to be a new Problematic CD coming out, so be on the lookout for that as well.
Cool. And you guys just had a CD come out, a re-release recently. Why don't you tell us about that for the Alchemists?
Well, yeah, so we just put out kind of the second part to this ongoing story. In 2011, we put out a CD called Spread Hope, and this new album is called For the Future, so Spread Hope for the Future. Kind of following on some of the same things from Spread Hope. We talk a lot about, well, what we're talking about here is building family, community, empowerment personally, kind of fighting against the system. There's a couple of love songs on there, some very deep topics that we touched upon in Spread Hope. We kind of delve into more in the new album For the Future. So we just released that in May, after the tragic loss of our founder, Dempsey Zulo. So that album For the Future is dedicated to him, and we're actually in the studio now working on a re-release of that For the Future album with extra songs and some remixes from people in the community. Again, part of our musical family, people who we've played music with, who've joined us on stage or contributing some of the music for these remixes. And then we're writing some songs just directly dedicated to Dempsey, because when we worked on the album, we didn't really have, obviously, this tragedy in mind when we were recording. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to that coming out. So today we wanted to talk about, you guys have a really special connection with your fans, and I suspect it's what's made you so popular. And it's a different way, you and I've talked about this a bit, but it's a different way of looking at marketing and promotion. And you talk about family, and it's very obvious. I mean, besides the fact that you guys have your kids on stage with you half the time, or at least half the time I've seen them, seen you guys, which is, festivals, situations, and stuff like that. But you're very approachable, and I have seen your fans come up to you, and you treat them like family. And we've talked about that topic a bit. So what I wanted to do today is kind of take you guys as a case study and kind of dissect how you've done that, how you've built that connection with your fans, because ultimately it's the connection with your fans that fans value and gets you to where, the success that you're looking for. But also it's, when the music industry right now, it's so hard to make money in the music industry, and selling, I'm sure you figured that out, and just selling your music on iTunes isn't going to support you. So it's really going out there, in my opinion, it's really going out there and finding out what is it of value that the consumer wants, the fan wants, and then being able to provide that. And I think that you guys do that by creating this connection that they place value in your music and they're buying your music. And that's my analysis and my view of what's going on with you. So I might be wrong. So that's what I want to talk about today and kind of dissect what you guys are doing to be able to do that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And there's a lot of things in there. Like it's pretty open, but we'll try and I guess dive into some of the pieces.
So what is let's just start by what is your approach to just promotion in general? What is how are you using technology and other what avenues, what marketing channels are you guys using, and how are you using them? That's probably different than how some other bands are using it.
I think well, that's an interesting question because I think a lot of people now in the industry in general are trying to figure out what to use. We live in a time where, as we're talking on Blab now, there's all sorts of new avenues. So it's kind of hard to pin one. We stick a lot to, the tried and true current formats, your Facebook, your Twitter, Instagram, stuff like that, our mainstays. But through you and some other people, we're trying things like Periscope and other kind of apps to interact with people. But really, we do a lot of our stuff, at least on the digital format, through Facebook and things. Another one of the vocalists in the band, Ian, is really into making videos. We still come from an older era, where things nowadays are like Vines, 30-second kind of thing.
Yep.
He likes to make mini movies. I think his shortest video comes in at like 5 minutes, but people love it. It's like a behind the scenes kind of look into the band. He's really good at creating these silly characters. And so you get a lot of like footage from us in the van or backstage or interacting, silly with some fans. And that's kind of how we have always approached it. Just kind of, really grassroots. Making it more about us as the people. Because I think at the end of the day, that's what I've learned being in the Alchemists, that we're all like, we're musicians on stage, but when we get off the stage, we're all people just like everyone in the audience. And that's one of the things that we've always been trying to convey, no matter what the medium, is that we're pretty approachable group of individuals.
That's very true. You're talking about the video brings up something to me that I think is really difficult in this new music marketing sphere, is that you're kind of a band has to be a jack of all trades, and you're kind of actually luckier if you have a few band members. Like, you're lucky that you have someone in your band who is interested in making videos and can do that, because that's something that's important, and video content is so interactive, and people can engage with it and really connect with that kind of content. But not every band has that. Not every band has the person who knows out finance, and not every band has, someone who's interested in social media. You kind of need all those pieces in this day and age. So I think that's it's aside from what we were talking about, but I think it's a really important thing to realize, is that you kind of you need the bassist that knows how to make websites. You know what I mean?
Yeah, everyone kind of has their roles, and it's nice that as in a band like the Alchemists, because we have currently, I think, 7 members. So not everyone, again, has every skill set, but through the sheer volume of the people, hopefully we'll find someone who wants to do something. Ilana does a lot of the Twitter stuff. I don't know if any of you guys out there have ever seen the Alchemists, but Ilana's awesome. She just joined us about 2 years ago, but she's been part of the Alchemists family for years. She actually joined us at a Strange Creek, I want to say like 4 years ago, before she became part of the band. But she does a lot of that Twitter stuff because she's really into it, and the Snapchat and all those things. So it's cool to have someone, because I don't have time for some of those things. So knowing that there's someone who can do it is pretty awesome.
Well, and that kind of ties back into what I was talking about before, which was, your approach to promoting the band is, it needs to be interactive on social media, but you can't be everywhere and to everything, everything to everyone. At least not one person can't. So
Yeah.
having that division of responsibilities in a band seems to me that it would be pretty key to being able to push your fan growth further. Would you agree with that?
I do. I totally agree with that. Um, it again, it's kind of hard because there are all of these parts to a band. I think one of the things I really enjoyed about your podcast has been, as you say, demystifying this whole industry, because there's more than just making the music. There's the the marketing, the recording. I think that was what last week was, like recording stuff. So there's all these things, all these parts of who organizes the recording sessions, who does your finances in the band, that I think a lot of people, just in general, not just musicians, but fans of music, don't really realize that it is a business. This music, it looks all fun. It's a
small business. Yeah, you're an entrepreneur,
And then it's in a lot of the stuff you just kind of learn on the go. There's things that come. Sometimes people like I said, Ilana likes Twitter and Ian likes the video stuff, but Ian was never a videographer. It's just kind of learning on the fly and seeing what works. And there's sometimes some mishaps, because you're learning as you go. But I think that's part of the beauty of it, is everyone kind of on the team working together to try and push forward this creation that we have in any way we can.
So I've heard that you were quite the nerd when you were in high school.
Oh,
is that true?
Did the Legend of Zelda shirt not give it away?
So what role does, I was just curious if you think that's had anything to do with how you approach being, the front man of a band and representing that and stepping into the spotlight when I would assume from that you had a different experience in high school, as did I. And I wonder if you think that I wonder if what you think it is about your personality and your experiences that makes you more approachable. And because I think that the being approachable, and we'll talk about it a little more, is pretty key in building your fan bases, obviously. I mean, there's some people who like Lady Gaga, which is like, we need to have the space between you and me. But most bands that are building actually, I think, need to have that connection. So that was a long question, but
well, there's a couple parts, and I think that in terms of the nerdy thing, it's kind of interesting the time we live in now, because I remember when I started first rhyming, and there was a kind of not a stigma, but a stereotype of what a rapper could be, because most of the time all you had was the radio and what you saw. And even when I first joined the Alchemists and my early Problematics days, a lot of my content has like some nerdy, I guess Easter eggs, you would say, hidden in the rhymes. And I remember having a conversation with one of the Problematics about how, you can't say that in the rhymes because it's too nerdy. But nowadays, we live in a time where some of the top grossing movies are the Avengers and, X-Men and things like that. So a lot of the nerd culture that I grew up with has now become mainstream. It's kind of weird. All the things that I loved, and now people are like, I want to know who Ant-Man is. I was like, you mean Hank Pym? And they're, But so I think personally, that is kind of cool, because a lot of the stuff that I like and I've been writing about, people now get it, I guess. But it's fun. And not to show how nerdy I am, but like, for an example, in some of our Southern tours, I like playing Magic the Gathering, and I taught one of our bass players how to play. And every place that we went, load in, do our sound check, and then we would play Magic. And every show.
I saw you doing it at Wormtown.
Oh yes, I love it. If you ever want to play Magic, Mystic Show. But it was really interesting to see. We were going places we had never been before, and before we had played any music, people would approach me and my bass player Garrett and just tell stories about, when I was in high school, I played Magic, or I had a friend who played Magic. So I thought that was really cool to be able to take something I loved in high school on the road and have that kind of be an interaction as well. Like people saw that we were not just musicians, but we had hobbies and other things that again made us relatable to them. Which I think, as you said, the approachability, it wasn't even like going to a club and being like, hey, I play Magic. It's just us in the corner and people gravitated towards us, but kind of showing some of your personality at shows really helps draw people in, I think.
Well, you give them something to relate to and they can connect with you better. And it's really that, I think that connection, that's the value that their connection to you and then to your music is, what gives them the impetus to come back,
Yeah.
And sometimes it's purely lyrics or music, but if you give them that extra piece, you need that extra piece these days. There's so many musicians out there. There's so many bands that you need something that, and there's so many good bands that you've got to have, that connection. That's that extra piece. That's that personalized piece that gives it that extra push so that you, rise to the level of the hot top of that list, Otherwise you get lost in the shuffle.
Well, it's also, like you said, it's a way for people to feel connected, that extra piece. It goes from, oh, this is my favorite band to this is my favorite band and this guy loves Star Wars as much as I love Star Wars, so you have like, it takes you from being a performer to being almost like a friend and again, like a family, like, it makes you feel more invested in not just the product, but the person and the people involved in it, which I think is important. And for me, it's always been, out of the band, I've kind of been one of the outgoing spokesperson of the band. And it's kind of like a personality thing. I really find myself lucky to be able to go places and meet some of the amazing people who come to an Alchemistic show, whether it's your first time or your 80th time. I think that for me is one of the reasons why I love going out in the crowd and giving out hugs and high fives and stuff is that I am as excited to be there as the people watching the show. And I think that's an important part of kind of cultivating this family that we have is letting everyone know that, I am actually literally happy to see all of the people who come out to our shows.
And it's not just about, so many musicians, go on stage, do their show, and come off stage, and then they're done. And that's not how you build your fan base. I mean, from sitting back and watching you all, it's before show, it's during show, and it's after show, connecting with the people that are in the crowd. Like you said, playing Magic before show and talking to people afterwards and selling merch, and then during the show, having an engaging style, all go into fostering that connection and creating that music tribe, I think. And go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I think it also, one of the cool things about the Alchemistics is that when I joined, obviously I never had an idea that I would still be a member of the band, 12 years later or what is this, 2015? I joined in 2004. So yeah, all these years later, and it's kind of the family aspect has grown organically. A lot of the music we talk about community and bringing people together, but I have watched and had people come up to me and say, hey, I found out about your band when I was in high school and now, they're in college or past. And so the same way that we have grown as a band with members and stuff, people have grown up to our music. And I think that's a pretty cool thing. And again, like I said, that's why I love, I'll be on stage and I'll see someone who maybe I haven't seen for a year or 5 years. And it's really fun to do that because, we're still making music and they've had these life experiences and then we can come back together and talk and discuss about those things. And that's pretty awesome. I couldn't imagine playing music and not interacting with the fans and the family. I feel like
that's your personality. That's definitely your personality. You're a connector, but there's plenty of bands who don't, and I think they're missing the boat, unfortunately. But what about this idea of the space between the musician and the fan? You know, the name of my podcast and my blog is Engage Your Fan Base. Obviously, this is I'm shouting to the rooftops my position on how to build your fans by connecting with people. But there is a certain segment of musicians, like the Lady Gaga example, where that's not appropriate and that's not how they're going to do it. But I do think that you are a very approachable guy, but just by you going up there and singing and fronting that band, there's a built-in, not stardom or whatever, but there's a built-in view that you're literally above them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's
by taking the stage, you're kind of elevated to a different status, I think.
Yeah, but there's like this gray area in between where you want to, somehow navigate that, and it's a spectrum, it would seem, for different bands. But how do you navigate that? Because you definitely are, bigger than life when you're up there. So
well, I think it's tough. It's again, like you said, a spectrum. Like not every band is going to be able to kind of be out there with the fans. There sometimes needs to be that space because I know as a musician, it's kind of hard. You're sharing a lot. Like you're on stage, you're sharing your music, your craft, your love. And then sometimes it is difficult to go out in the crowd and give more. There's a line. It's been interesting, as we talked about at the start, we have recently gone through a major tragedy in the Alchemists. Probably the hardest thing I've ever experienced playing music, just in general. It's a huge blow. And it has been difficult to be on stage, so, obviously there's songs that we play that just remind all of us of Dempsey and, what we've lost. And so it's hard to get back on stage when you have such, tragedy and sorrow. But the beautiful thing about the Alchemists is we do have this family. I think for me, we were talking about family for a number of years, and this tragedy really brought home how much of a family we have built, and a lot of that is because of Dempsey. He started the band. He had an idea that he wanted to bring together all of his communities. But I really think that it's hard to pick where your line is. Do you want to, interact with all the fans? Do you need your space? And I think that each band should figure out where they fit in the spectrum. But like you said, remember that without engaging your fan base, you can't really grow anything. You can play the best music, technically and whatever, but if you're not there, people don't have a connection to you as a person, they tend to move on to something else. Which I think we've been able to hold a lot of people who were Alchemists fans, continue to be Alchemists fans, and that thing goes on. So I like the fact that because we do share, people share with us as well. And going back to the tragedy is that's, I think the biggest thing for me is that it was hard to be on stage, but seeing everyone else in the crowd going through these same emotions in their own way, and giving hug, really getting that back was very important, and it helped everyone in the band kind of move forward. There could have been a point where we just stopped playing music, but taking the stage for the first time at Strange Creek was one of the most beautiful things, is seeing this crowd of very diverse people there, kind of remembering the life of Dempsey. And it really drove home again that there was a family, and that we all lost someone, but we all needed to come together to move forward. It was kind of powerful.
We were talking about how important it is to have that connection, but there's the way you guys are doing it, and I want to still point out that there are ways that even Lady Gaga, I keep using that as an example, but connects with her audience, right? But
yes,
you have to find some way to do that. And one of the ways to do that, which you guys have done, is to build this music family around your band. It's just one of the ways to connect with your fans. I think it's in a particularly effective way and probably fairly, it sounds very fulfilling way to do it.
Yeah.
But like we said, it doesn't fit for everyone. Um, so what do you think some special aspects of an alchemistic show um, that are unique to the alchemistics leads to this type of or engagement? I mean, my mind immediately goes to the kids, for example.
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
First thing obviously is the kids. I feel like there's definitely been an increase in into stage time ratio in the last year, which has been
especially
awesome.
at the I think you had kids up on your entire set for at Gateway City Arts.
Oh, that's the benefit. There was it. The kids were there, and
Yeah,
it's
it
been
was great.
kids. Even Dempsey's daughter Osha, who's now 13. She's always been to our shows. One of the best things about for me playing in the Alchemistics as an MC is that all the music that we make is accessible to anyone. Like it's rare, especially in the hip hop world, to
Mhm.
have a completely clean album. I don't use any curse words, and everything that we do is kind of positive. So I've always been happy that people would bring their kids to come see our music, and that's been happening since kind of the inception. And now as my kids are older and Ian's kids are older, they want to get on the stage, and it's fun. I had a friend in Your Mama's Big Fat Booty band at Strange Creek come up to me and be like, "Yeah, I don't think I ever saw a guy rapping with his daughter in his arms." And I was like, so that's one of the things. I think that a big part of the family is not just the fans and the Alchemistics; it's also the musical family we have. So if you come to an Alchemistic show, you'll see a number of guests from the bigger musical community. We were at Electric Haze last Friday, and we had Pete Doom come out from 8 Feet Tall. We had Chris Regan from Fear Nothing Band was playing, sitting in with us. And that's something that I think we've always kept. Like, I personally joined the Alchemistics after seeing them at a show. They all, they would have a space where people could guest, and I guested with them. And we've always done that. And I think that helps to open it up too. It's not just the band playing, it's the band and our family, joining us. Because I love introducing people who maybe don't know a Fear Nothing band, but then they see a member of the band on stage. Or my younger brother, Catalyst, is also a performer, and he is recorded with us. You'll see him on stage with us. And that's, a lot of people don't know that's really my brother, but he is literally my blood brother. So, I think for me, that's another part of our show that's very different. Some bands have a little jam section or things like that, but not a lot of bands really have the kind of improv and guests that we try to bring on stage.
Well, I would imagine that kind of collaboration really leads to a lot of cross promotion, which is, I mean, that's the part that's not as hippy dippy, I guess, but but the truth of the matter is you're collaborating with the musicians from across the spectrum. You guys all that a lot of times bands are it's almost like you're in competition as opposed to, well, you are in competition in some ways, but at the same time by embracing that and helping each other out, everybody grows.
Yeah, and I think again it speaks to that bigger kind of musical family thing, is that while a lot of bands are in competition because we're all trying to make sure our shows are well attended, and obviously there's only a certain amount of people in each area who can go to shows. But the thing that I've really enjoyed is that playing music for as long as I have, I've met a number of bands. We've done shows and gigs, and there is a camaraderie and a kind of kinship and bond behind that. So it's cool to be able to show other people that, it's not just, all right, we're musicians and we see each other. We actually like to perform together and spend time doing stuff together. And I think it's important to show that. And I think actually, not to go too off topic, but I've noticed a trend as well. And at least the music scenes that I'm in, of a lot of bands kind of now forming little mini side projects. You know, you'll
Yeah.
have a member of this band, you know,
Yep.
as I was telling you last night, was Danny Mayer Trio with Mikey
Mhm.
from Turklaws and Nate from Nth Power, just doing 3 or 4 shows. And it's kind of fun for people to see the musicians that they are used to in different aspects.
Mhm.
That's another part of people's personality. I think most musicians in the scene love playing music. If we could, we would just do the music part all the time.
Yep.
Unfortunately, you have to do, you know, the marketing and there's other things, but I think it's really cool to see that family foster and grow, because we're kind of all in it together, you know, except for the fact that we are kind of all trying to make it at the same time.
Yeah, it's like the end product is greater than sum of the parts kind of thing, that you're able to build more by working together than by treating each other as competitors.
Yeah. And it's fun. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it pushes everyone. Like I said, in the Alchemistic show, I love that improv and having guests and things. You know, part of it's the MC in me, because I love freestyling, and the beauty of what I do allows me to kind of move in and out of scenes a little more than some
Mhm.
musicians. It's harder to, as a drummer, to just like jump in guests with a band. Um, but I really love that we do always open ourselves up to other musicians, because there's stuff that, you know, hanging out with the Alchemistics, we play music with each other all the time.
Yeah.
And someone else from outside of our family, or, you know, from another part of our family come in, you know, gives us some more inspiration. Like, we want to play great because so-and-so is guesting on guitar with us. You know, if it happens, you know, Bo Sasser shows up and we're like, all right, we got to make sure that we crush this song because Bo is here, you know, kind of thing.
Yeah. So I want to wrap up a little bit, and just if you could tell us maybe, what are some parting thoughts, some tips for or advice you would give to musicians who want to follow this model. And it is one of many models, but I think it's an important model, especially in this day and age. And for certain personalities and certain kinds of bands, it's really appropriate.
Yeah.
So what are some of your advice for people who would want to, try to replicate some of your success with building this music tribe?
I would say, you know, one of the big things again is there's a sliding scale. Like, know yourself, know how much you're willing to put yourself out there and give. You know, like
Mhm.
as you were saying, not everyone can all the time just be in the crowd hugging and giving emotionally, but figure out a comfortable place for yourself. And if you're in a band who really doesn't interact with your fans yet, or, you know, I know that some of us are a little nervous around people and socially awkward, because I am.
Mhm.
Um,
That's
but
hard to
just go
tell, but okay.
hang out, meet some people. You know, if each show you go and make it a point to actually talk to just 2 people, you will kind of
Yeah,
have
setting some
changed
goals. Hmm.
people's, you know, lives. And not to make it sound kind of cliche, but
No, I
that's
agree.
one of the things I have learned, is that music is a thing that connects us all. And, you know, I think some musicians forget that when people go to a show, they are trying to get rid of all their worries and problems and put away all the stress and stuff. And, you know, just for that moment, you are changing their lives for the better. So, you know, make it a point to go and talk to some of those people, because I think you will, as a musician, will get a lot out of that. You know, for me, just talking to our family has been a very moving and powerful tool. Um, yes, and I think that's, for me, that's the biggest thing, is kind of just making an effort to go out there and meet people. And I still tell people in the Alchemistics sometimes, like, hey, don't just go in the green room, you know, not to throw Ian under the bus, but I'm like, how about you work the merchandise sometimes? Because I love doing it, but sometimes having someone else do it, you know, is
Stretch
awesome,
their wings
because
a little bit and
yeah.
yeah.
And I think on the flip side as well, for fans, as try and talk to musicians. I know there, like you said, there's this elevated platform that people kind of
Mhm.
see, but honestly, at the end of the day, all musicians are just people who happen to get on the stage. Um, and sometimes musicians aren't willing to go out of their way to meet someone, but all it takes is a fan or a new family member to come up and really talk to them to do that. Like I personally noticed it, for instance, in the Alchemists, Ross John, awesome. Everyone wants to talk to him, but he has this very stoic persona. And I feel like people get afraid, but once they talk to him, this is a little known fact, Ross John's probably as nerdy, if not nerdier than I am. The first times I met him at his studio, he calls me over and is like, look back there, man. And there's just a room full of comic books. And I was like, this is the best ever. So there's like little facts, and I've seen people personally, they want to talk to Rajan. I said, just go say something. And, he'll light up because he really does enjoy talking to people, but he is not the kind of person who will go over and talk to someone. So that's
it's hard to do that as a fan sometimes because you don't know what to say except for sounding like, oh, I loved your music. Like you want to have something I don't know. I always want to have something interesting to say. But the first time I talked to Ross John, I had my babies at Tri-County Fair, and I got a picture of him holding Finn's hand. I love it. But he's really nice. And I agree with you that, it's, figuring out who you want to talk to and just opening the conversation is really important on both sides. That's great advice. Thank you. Solveig, are you still there? Would you like to jump in at all? It would be cool to see you. Solveig is going to be on the podcast next week on Wednesday instead of Christmas Eve. She's there she is. We'll let her tell us about herself.
Yay. I like this blab thing. I'm into it.
Oh my gosh, so we're meeting. Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you? Did I pronounce it correctly? Yeah, I can hear you fine. Did I pronounce it correctly?
Yes, you did great.
All right, cool. So I found her, saw some stuff on Twitter, and then I joined a Facebook group, and she was posting in there, and I started reading her blog, which is Shades of Solveig, right? And it's a fabulous blog post, fabulous writer. And I'll let you tell a little more about yourself, but she's going to be on the podcast next week talking about, what is the title? It's Find Your Popcorn. Was that the title of it?
Yes.
Why don't you tell us about yourself a little bit?
Okay, so first of all, I just want to say hi. It's lovely to meet both of you.
Yay.
And I have been listening and watching, and it's great. And I'm always interested in new forms of getting information out there. So that was really great to hear everything that you had to say. So good job.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And okay, so let's see. I am a music marketing consultant. I am a blogger. I am a musician myself. I write music. I'm a lyricist, and I perform. I sing. I record. I'm a member of the Grammy Academy. I go to music conferences once in a while, and I also teach social media. So I teach in an evening program at the University of Washington to adults who are interested in getting their certificate from the University of Washington in continuing education on regarding social media. So it's a 9-month certificate program. Starts this January, and I lead it off with the first quarter. And then let's see what else. I've been a corporate marketing person for a really long time. I'm a recovering corporate marketing person. I basically left the corporate marketing world about 15 years ago and decided I wanted to do. I am still, I've lapsed. It's actually, I have lapsed. So I do actually do consulting occasionally to non-musicians in the tech world as well. So that's pretty much what I do. I'm too old to tour. So, so I do lots of other things to try to keep current with my music. And I perform locally, but I'm not like a touring musician. I don't think I ever will be, but I sure love music. And you were talking earlier about how most of us who are musicians really would just rather be making music than having to do all of that marketing stuff. which is true. Although I am I have very left brain, right brain conflict. I really enjoy doing the marketing stuff as well. But I do think it's really hard for most of us creative types, once we get engaged with our music, to want to kind of shift gears and get engaged with the marketing. So that is a challenge that we all face. And we're always trying to get new ideas and new systems together for promoting our music in a way that allows us to also have time to make the music. And I think that's really an important thing, is sharing what works, for all of us to share what works for us, so that other musicians can take what works for them and apply it to their own careers. And that's really kind of my mission with social media and blogging, is to share what works for me, and also what works for other musicians that I interview, and what works for mainstream musicians that might potentially work for indie musicians.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a lot.
Yeah. That's what we're trying to do here too, is this boots on the ground perspective from musicians like Force. What is working? What about what you're doing is working and getting you to the next level like you want to be? Did you have any thoughts on our topic today? The music tribe connection-based marketing?
No, I think I don't have anything really profound to add. I thought you guys made a lot of points. I find that building a tribe is really different for different genres. There are different tools. Some people work really well with one type of marketing tool or one type of marketing activity. There are some commonalities that I've found amongst musicians who are really successful in building their tribes, and that is definitely to have that energy and that willingness to network with their fans and talk to their fans. And it's really hard today, I think, to be kind of the David Bowie type of musician where you're not really interacting with your fans. And certainly for musicians starting out, I think being sociable, or having at least one member of your band, like you guys were talking about, that not every member can always be that, and maybe their personality is not such that works for them. But I do think that, maybe it's not at shows where you're sociable. Maybe it's online on social media where you're sociable. Maybe it's, through one of the vehicles that you guys were talking about, like through a Blab or Periscope or Facebook. So many people are introverts, I find. Not musicians are introverts, but some musicians are not. And so I think it's really about finding your skills as a band or as a musician, and where do you feel comfortable communicating, because communication is so important. You have to do it one way or another, but finding, there's so many other alternatives now that musicians can really figure out. Maybe it's writing a newsletter once a month that's just really funny.
Well, and I think, like you were saying, there's so much new social media. Again, I'm a super nerd, so Twitch comes to mind. I don't know if you guys know about what Twitch is. It's kind of
a gaming platform,
streaming thing.
Yeah,
and they do a lot of stuff there. But I have some friends who are musicians who just, in their off time, they stream their video game playing, and that's a way for them to interact with their fans. Because who would have thought that just hanging out at your house playing a video game could become this kind of social interaction,
communal. I know my 11-year-old son is on Twitch.
Oh yeah. See.
Oh yeah. He loves it. He totally loves it.
I never thought I would be the kind of person who would watch other people play games. Let me just say that. But yeah, and I think it's a really cool time because you don't have to be out in the crowd per se. And I think that's another thing for people to understand, is that just find what is comfortable for you, and then let it go, and people really respect that. They like knowing, I play Magic the Gathering, or someone really likes, chess in the band. I have a friend of Political Animals who's always like, come to a show, I'll play chess. Those are fun.
Exactly.
They don't really have anything to do with music, but they have to do with the person and what you like. So
yeah, I have a client who does yoga. She's a yoga teacher. And so she's combined her love of yoga. She's also a visual artist, like she's an amateur visual artist. I actually have a couple of musician friends and clients who are also visual artists. And I think that other idea that you just brought up of finding outside interests, maybe they're not outside necessarily for you, but they're additional interests where you can, or you already maybe are connected with an existing community and not keep those, not to be constantly promoting your music in that other community, because that would not be cool, but to integrate, periodically, and not just keep those two communities totally separate. Like I love the chess idea. I love the idea of bringing different communities together, because that's a really great way to build a fan base, to introduce people. Maybe you like to bake, or maybe you're a writer, or maybe you're a visual artist, or maybe you love to make fun videos. That's the other thing, is social media is so visual that if you have skills in that area as a musician, if you can use Photoshop, if you can use Canvas, or Canva, to create cute little memes, what a great thing to be able to do for your band, to create great show posters. There's a new tool, I think, I forget what it's called, TAD, to create album covers on your phone, that a friend of mine just came out with. And, people have so many different skills they don't realize they could bring to the table to help them connect with other fans.
Yeah. Well, and it's becoming so much easier to do things that you don't need all of the skills. You don't need to be an expert in graphic design to be able to design things for your band. I have a really cool app called WordSwag, where it makes those pictures. Do you know WordSwag? It's like
I just like the term WordSwag.
It makes those pictures like that you see on Facebook, where like there'll be a picture in the background and they'll have like sayings on the front.
Oh yeah, like the little cartoony things. Yeah.
Yeah, or it's not even such cartoons. It might just be a pattern behind it and like a quote or something like that. You can put. It gives you like a million different backgrounds you can use, and then a million different. You type in what you wanted to say, and then a million different ways that it can look, and you've just created it. And it takes 2 minutes, and it looks so professional. But so my point is that I'm not a graphic designer, but I look like one when I do it, and because there are so many tools out there that can make things easier. It's just a matter of like knowing what they are. But a lot of times, if there's things that you want to do, I'm just really glad that you told us about. Is it TAD? TAD?
Yeah, I think that's what it's called. I'll have to look it up. It's so the website, my friend's website is makeitinmusic.com, and he's written a book. He's kind of like in our professional community, same as you and me, Cara, and they just announced this app, and it's a completely it's Android and iOS. And you can basically just take a picture. It's kind of the same idea as Make It Inwards?
What's that? What I was talking about?
Yeah. What was the one you were talking about? WordSwag. That's right. Sorry. WordSwag. WordSwag, Canva, PicMonkey. All of these tools are great for doing stuff on the fly, desktop, even mobile. This one happens to be like a mobile thing. Like you can basically create this, output it in a variety of formats, but certainly for stuff like CD Baby or, TuneCore, where all you need is a fairly low resolution, small graphic, or SoundCloud. Let's say you want to create a new visual for every tune that you put up on SoundCloud. You can do it in like 30 seconds.
Awesome.
That's cool. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. I think we're going to end now. I'm just going to wrap up because I usually try to keep it to half an hour, and we've talked for a while. But I'm really glad you jumped in, and I'm really looking forward to our talk next week. I have to reread the blog post, but it made an impression on me. And, talking about diversifying and what is your business plan? How are you going to make money in this business? Like, I really think that's going to be a really great podcast, because I think a lot of people need to figure that one out.
Exactly.
And I loved the analogy with the popcorn. So that I'm really looking forward to talking about it next week. And I'm really excited we got to meet. So this is cool. And
you called in too, because I'm looking forward to it. Kara, I've enjoyed all of your podcasts, so thank you for having me, and keep doing it, because I am learning stuff from your podcast. I'm sure other people are as well. So.
Thank you. Well, I did want to, I was about to say thank you so much for being on for us. It was really great. Of course, it's a great opportunity for us to hang out, even digitally. And so thank you, everyone who will listen to this later, for listening and watching the Engage Your Fanbase podcast. We're on every Thursday, most every Thursday. Next week's going to be on Wednesday because of Christmas, at 1 p.m. Eastern. I'm Kara Karma with Simon Says Booking and EngageYourFanbase.com, and Live Music News and Review, where I Periscope every weekend at the handle at LMN and R live shows. So check us out there. So thanks so much for being on, and I'm looking forward to our conversation next week, and hopefully Forrest will jump in and check it out as well. So next Wednesday at 1, right? 1 my time.
1 your time, 10 my time. Great to meet you, Forrest.
You as well. I look forward to looking at your blog as well. So.
Thank you.
Definitely should check it out. Well, why don't you tell us the name of your blog first before we go?
Shades of Solveig, just like my Twitter handle. You can also find me at Solveigwhittle, SOLVEIGWHITTLE.com. Same website.
All right. Thanks so much. And we can find the Alchemistics at, is it Alchemistics or thealchemistics.com?
Either one works to take you there. So,
great. Cool.
Yeah.
Good man.
Smart. Great. Thanks so much, everyone. And we'll see you on the flip side. Bye.
Thank you. Bye, guys.